The Ratling Warpblaster and the Warp Lightning Cannon are two of the big, scary guns of the Skaven armies in the new edition of AOS, but is one of them notably better than the other? Let's take a look at the two war scrolls that we've been shown and find out. So the Ratling Warpblaster, which we got shown a couple of days ago, has 7 health and it fires 3d6 plus 3 shots that get you an average of 13.5 shots. I mean, obviously you can't get 13.5, but just going by averages, 13.5 shots and into a unit of 10 or more, or with all-out attack, you are going to be looking at 2.25 automatic wounds because of the crit auto wound ability, with a further 6.75 hits, which turn into 4.5 wounds because it is 3 plus the wound, so 6.75 wounds in total. And if we consider shooting into a squishy infantry unit like Free Guild Steel Helms with a base 4-up save, that means with their 1 rend, about 4.5 damage will go through, meaning between 4 and 5 dead Steel Helms. The Warpblaster can be buffed and its number of shots bumped to 6d6 plus 3 near a Scryer hero. This gives it an average of 24 shots, and meaning again with all-out attack or into a unit of 10 or more, you are averaging 16 hits, 4 of those being auto wounds thanks to the crit ability, so 12 hits in total, 8 will wound, so adding back the 4 auto wounds is going to get you 12 wounds at rend 1, so into those same Steel Helms, you are looking at around 8 damage, so killing off 8 of the troops. In the absolute best case scenario, however, the Warpblaster can do a whopping 39 shots, which could obviously decimate entire swathes of an enemy army. If you were lucky enough to get all 39 shots, you would be looking at around 6.5 auto wounds, as well as a further 13 after you had hit and wounded, meaning around 13 dead Steel Helms after their save. But even into a tankier unit like Stormcast Vindicators, you could kill nearly an entire 5-man squad with a single volley. You would do around just under 10 damage. I think you'd do about 9.75 in total. Of course, in that situation, you would also take just under 7 mortal damage from your ones to hit, which does a mortal damage back to you. So you could very well blow yourself up in that same volley, thanks to the Warpblaster only having 7 health. The Warp Lightning Cannon, by comparison, has 8 health and a much swingier 2d6 shots. This leads you to have an average of about 7 shots, however, each hit on this gun just does a flat mortal damage. So again, with all-out attack, you could turn those 7 shots just into a straight 4.6 mortal damage, again killing around 4 or 5 Steel Helms, and then also, like the Warpblaster, when you are near a Scryer hero, this gun does get better. In the case of this gun, it gets more stability, being 2d6 plus 6 shots. This gives you a new average of around 13 shots, leading to about 8.6 damage, so again, killing just under 9 of the Steel Helms. So it's a tiny bit better than the boosted Warpblaster, but not by a huge amount. In terms of the maximum output for this gun, however, it does have a cap of 18 shots rather than 39, but since it does just do flat mortal damage rather than needing to roll to wound and have saving throws against it, that does actually translate to an average of 12 hits with all-out attack, meaning you can instead do something tankier like those Vindicators. Instead of doing around 10 damage, you will do around 12 damage to them, so you could potentially kill just an extra 1 and kill off around 6 of them, compared to the 5 that the Warpblaster could. And then as you delve into tougher and tougher targets, the Warp Lightning Cannon does just seem to pull even further ahead. Something really tanky like the Stormcast Annihilators, the Warp Lightning Cannon will manage to kill with completely average rolling, so not maximum rolling, just completely average rolling on the number of shots and your hit rolls. Using all-out attack though, you can just almost kill a unit of 3 in a single volley. You will do about 8.6 damage, so obviously them having 3 wounds each, that is just under their 9 wound cap, but you could very easily spike it a tiny bit and wipe out an entire unit of 3 in a single go. By comparison, the Warpblaster, which only has that 1 rend, means that if you are going into 2-up save Annihilators, it is an average of 12 wounds, but only 4 are going to get through. So you could kill around 1 Annihilator and then leave 2 still standing, albeit one of them might take a wound or 2. So it does make quite a big difference, these 2 guns, as you go into tankier and tankier targets. In terms of killing themselves, the cannon will on average rolling do about 4 damage to itself thanks to its ones to hit, basically making the gun explode for D3 damage, whilst the Warpblaster, its explosions on ones only make it take 1 mortal damage per hit, but with the higher number of average shots, it will still, with average rolling and average number of shots, take about 4 damage in total, so they both take about the same amount of damage to themselves from their shooting. The Warpblaster does have the advantage in that it has an extra 3 inches of movement, which is quite useful. They both have the same 20-inch range, so whilst that isn't a short range, it could be possible for the Warp Lightning Cannon to be ranged out by a savvy opponent, and the Warpblaster will just have that little bit of extra edge at getting into range. But generally speaking, when you look at them side by side, I think the Warp Lightning Cannon has the slight advantage overall, and especially when you've got those Scryer heroes nearby, and as you go into tougher and tougher targets, the Warp Cannon does just keep pulling further and further ahead. I think if you know you are going purely into a mass horde army like undead with loads of zombies and skeletons, then you could maybe consider the Warpblaster just because it is ever so slightly better into those really chaff units if you roll well. And obviously this is going to depend a lot on points and how much they each cost. But for me personally, just on these 2 guns and from the war scrolls we've seen, my money would be on the Warp Lightning Cannon pretty much all the time against almost any target. So if I was just building a take all comers list and I had to choose between the Warp Lightning Cannon and the Warpblaster, if they both come out at the same points, I would be taking the Warp Lightning Cannon pretty much every time. But I would love to know what you think of these 2 guns. Do you think either of them are going to be worth taking just in general? And if so, which do you think is going to be better overall? Or do you think they are both worth taking because they do serve a different purpose? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later guys.